Stories Philippines podcast.
A darkness permeates this episode, touching on scenes and themes some may find deeply unsettling. Listener discretion is a necessity. There's a kind of chill that slips through the cracks on a humid February night. A hush that seems to move between the walls and whisper through the wires of a city never truly at rest. Somewhere, someone is scrolling through grainy Friendster profiles, pausing over a familiar smile, or waiting anxiously for a text that will not come. Love, in these moments, is a fever, a longing that aches behind the eyes, a hope that is equal parts delight and dread. But what if that fever was never yours to begin with? What if desire, that most private of flames, could be stolen, bent, or bound by hidden hands? Tonight's story is not for the faint of heart. We will step into a world where the boundaries of longing and control blur, where the wish to be cherished can turn into a curse that never lets go. The shadows we explore tonight may unsettle you, lingering long after the lights are out. It is wise to listen with care, because some stories are as haunting as the feelings we try hardest to hide. And as you settle in, be aware that the ordinary can become uncanny. A late-night voicemail that plays on repeat in your head. A photograph that seems to change when you're not looking. A whisper behind a door that mirrors your own secret prayers. These small betrayals of expectation build until the familiar is no longer safe, and the ache of wanting becomes a chain. Stay attentive, for what follows will probe the thin, trembling line between affection and possession, between yearning and control, and ask whether anyone truly owns the shape of another person's desire. I am Jessica, and you are listening to Stories Philippines podcast. This is Season 5, Episode 7, Valentine's Dark Reprise, Love Curses and the Mangkukulam. Before we journey deeper, remember to share your own haunting tales with us. If you have a personal experience, a family legend, or a strange nocturnal encounter, we want to hear it. You can send your stories to our email at stories-phpodcast@gmail.com. For full show notes, episode references, and multiple ways to support this podcast, check the episode description where we list links and resources. If you're curious for more, explore our exclusive behind-the-scenes content and extended interviews on Patreon, and follow us across social media for daily glimpses into Filipino lore, photographs of ritual objects, short clips, and listener reactions that expand each episode's themes. Let us begin, as all love stories do, with longing, and with a careful warning. In the heart of the Philippines, in villages and cities alike, the Mangkukulam sits at the crossroads of need and power. Sometimes called a witch, sometimes a healer, the Mangkukulam is a figure at once feared and sought, her name whispered in the same breath as heartbreak, obsession, and revenge. Her tools are deceptively simple: a length of thread, a lock of hair secreted into a small parcel, a candle flickering in a darkened room on some rainy night. Her power, however, is profound. The ability to twist fate, to bind hearts, to curse rivals, to make love bloom or wither by force of will. She is the human hinge between tenderness and terror. But what is a love curse really? In the old stories, it is a ritual braided from loneliness and hope. Red and black threads knotted at midnight beneath a sickle moon, a name scratched into wax by trembling fingers, a prayer murmured over a bowl of water, a mirror or heated oil. The Mangkukulam is called upon not only to heal, but to harm, to tug at desire so fiercely that reason becomes a distant shore. She is solicited to make the beloved turn toward you, to make a rival vanish from sight, to stoke a passion that will not die. The Gayuma, the famous love potion, is the gentlest form of this magic, intended to attract, to spark desire, to ignite curiosity and longing. The curse, by contrast, is something darker, a compulsion that overrides will, a binding that ties one person's heart to another's, even as it eats away at autonomy and peace. Yet the Mangkukulam is not simply a villain in these tales. She is sometimes an outcast, sometimes a confidant, sometimes the only one with the courage to grant a desperate wish when the lawful remedies have failed. Her craft is a mirror for the ache of unrequited love, for the quiet, corrosive agony of watching happiness slip further away with every unanswered text, every changed status, every read message that is never replied to. In the digital age, the tools of enchantment may have changed. Screens and social platforms now stand beside talismans and herbs, but the hunger for control, the wish to hold another's attention and affection remains the same and beats with equal intensity. Let us trace the long, tangled lineage of this figure. Long before the arrival of crosses and cathedrals, the islands thrummed with the voices of Babaylan, spiritual leaders and ritual specialists, healers who were women and men, who spoke to spirits and ancestors, who patterned their lives around herbs, chants, and rites that tended both body and soul. When colonial power arrived, suspicion and fear fused and reframed these roles into something darker and more ambivalent. The Babaylan were gradually recast in colonial records and popular imagination as sorcerers and witches. The healer became the Mangkukulam, simultaneously healer and hexer, beloved by some, reviled and feared by others. In the Spanish accounts of as early as 1589, the Mangkukulam appears as a bringer of maladies, a witch whose fire could not easily be extinguished, whose presence was held responsible for sickness, misfortune, and at times death. These portrayals helped cement an image that has been retold, reshaped, and resisted across centuries. Through the centuries, the Mangkukulam's power has not faded. Instead, it has quietly adapted, persisting through shifts in belief and social structure while retaining its capacity to terrify and explain the inexplicable. In the early 1900s, chroniclers and local storytellers described her as an agent capable of, by mere wish or pronounced malice, inflicting headaches, tumors, fevers, and boils upon those she targeted. Her doll, a crude figure woven from rattan, cloth, or other readily available materials and pinned with sharp objects, was said to mimic victims' pain. Wherever it was pierced or burned, a corresponding wound or ache would appear on the person believed to be cursed. In Batangas at the turn of the century, rumors held that to cross a Mangkukulam was to invite death, unless one could secure the services of a healer armed with the right anting-anting, the protective amulet or talisman reputed to deflect or break curses. Sometimes the only antidote was confession. Under threat, coercion, or ritual pressure, the witch might be compelled to unravel her spell, and the afflicted individual would rise, mysteriously healed, as if the malady had been anchored to admission and retraction. During his exile in Dapitan, José Rizal wrote of the Mangkukulam with the wary eye of a skeptic, meticulously noting the rituals he observed: tawas examination with burning herbs and alum, the boiling of guava leaves and other botanicals, and the careful interpretation of the shapes and residues left behind as signs of bewitchment. Rizal argued that these curses operated primarily on the mind, not through supernatural force, but by suggestion, expectation, and fear. Yet, despite such rational critiques, in villages and towns across the archipelago, the faith in homunculum's power persisted, blending seen remedies and unseen influences, pragmatic folk medicine, and the inexplicable. This dual perspective, that fear, belief, and social attention can manifest as genuine physical suffering, is a phenomenon observed across many cultures and lends a chilling complexity to the idea of a curse. It is at once psychological, social, and, for those suffering, palpably real. Today, the figure of the homunculum lives on, her silhouette flickering through both pop culture and the quieter anxieties of contemporary romance. She appears in horror films, serialized television, and online lore. She fuels whispered warnings among neighbors and elders, and she even lurks in late-night chat rooms and messaging threads where heartbreak festers and conspiracies take root. Modern love, mediated by screens and algorithms, is a chasm bridged by fragile trust, where a missed call can be misread as betrayal, and a well-timed message can revive hope and possession. In this digital climate, the temptation to control, to bind, or to curse persists as an ancient response to jealousy, loss, and powerlessness. The tools may change, memes and rumors instead of rattan dolls, but the impulse is as old as longing itself. The global history of love magic offers unsettling and instructive parallels. In medieval Europe, the use of effigies, pins, and potions to compel affection or punish perceived rivals was widespread and frequently criminalized. Authorities feared the social disruption these practices could cause. The Romans, too, crafted love spells and binding curses, etching their requests or maledictions onto thin lead tablets which they then buried in tombs or wells, invoking chthonic forces to attract or repel a desired partner. Across continents and eras, the anxiety that another person's will might be stolen, that desire could be manufactured rather than freely given, reappears in similar practices and similar moral panics. What makes the Filipino narrative surrounding the homunculum distinctive is the intimate way she operates within communal networks. Often she is known to the family, introduced by neighbors, or recommended through a chain of whispered referrals. This embeddedness makes the homunculum less the solitary, shadowy figure of the European witch trials and more a social actor, part of local dispute resolution, rumor economies, and remedial cultures, whose presence and purported acts are woven into everyday life and communal memory. Let us step now into the lives of those who have felt the homunculum's touch and lived to tell the tale, to pass on warnings like weathered maps. One story, carefully submitted by a listener with hands that trembled as they typed, tells of a young man named Carlo. In 2005, Carlo was infatuated with a woman named Eliza, whom he had met on Friendster, in that strange, early online world where messages felt like paper notes passed across a classroom of strangers. Their messages were sweet and hopeful, laced with the awkward, bright excitement of newness and possibility. But as the months passed, the novelty dimmed and his affection cooled. He stopped replying, distracted and busy with work, pulled into new circles and new friends. Then, one night, he dreamed of her calling to him, her voice echoing through a house lined with broken mirrors and corridors that seemed to loop back on themselves. When he woke, there was a small, deliberate bundle left at his door. Red braids knotted tight, a lock of hair, and the faint, peculiar scent of burning wax that lingered in the air like a promise. From that night on, Carlo's private life was no longer private. His thoughts were consumed by the image of her. Her face threaded itself into every idle hour. He felt watched, haunted, as if eyes followed him in crowded streets and shadows leaned toward him in the dark. He could not think of anything else. The world outside the memory of her face collapsed, losing color and depth until everything seemed a dull, flat gray. Sleep abandoned him, appetite vanished, and the energetic person his friends had known retreated into a private, obsessive world. When he finally forced himself to reach out across the nervous gulf, she answered with a single, possessive word: mine. In the weeks that followed, Carlo's health and vitality deteriorated alarmingly. He grew pale, listless, and easily fatigued. His speech dulled, and strangers spoke to him with pitying shakes of their heads. His family, frightened and unsure what to do, sought out a healer, someone who knew the old ways and the right words. The healer performed a ritual of cleansing, a complex sequence of prayers, the swinging of smoke from herbs, salt sprinkled in the corners of the house. After the rite, the pressure around Carlo seemed to loosen. The spell, whatever its precise form, receded. His mind cleared, the intrusive thoughts ebbed, and the constant messages from the woman stopped. Yet a scar remained. For years afterward, he flinched at the sight of red thread and would not bring candles into the house. Even the faintest scent of wax made his chest tighten with dread. This is the shadow that compulsion leaves, an invisible, permanent mark on the spirit, a memory of violation that no ritual can entirely erase. Such stories are not rare, as if these episodes belong to a public archive of private torments. In rural towns and tight-knit communities, tales still circulate of lovers who turn cold and distant without explanation, of rivals who fall ill overnight, of men and women who wander in a daze, compelled by invisible forces they cannot name or fight. The geography of these incidents often points to remote, mist-shrouded locations, provinces like Sikihor, where superstition and reputation entwine, or quiet, ancient neighborhoods within cities where the old houses press close together, casting long, patient shadows. The humid air of these places seems to carry secrets, like a low, unsettling whisper that suggests the material world does not contain all that matters. In some versions of the stories, the Mankukulam is a woman wronged, a jilted lover, a betrayed friend, or a rejected suitor who turns to forbidden arts as a means of retribution. In other tellings, she is simply a pragmatic businesswoman, offering love potions and curses to clients who cannot bear to lose or who seek advantage in matters of the heart. Her craft is not only about raw power, but about a distorted sense of justice, a way to redress perceived imbalances of love and fate when social remedies fail. The rituals of Kulam are closely guarded, transmitted in whispers and practiced at the edges of communities where tradition remains strong. Candles are lit at midnight. Prayers are whispered in a language that feels older than living memory. Objects that belonged to the intended target, strands of hair, nail clippings, photographs, are bound together and secreted away in places considered charged with meaning, often near ancient trees or beneath the floorboards of houses built on soil that has absorbed decades of life and death. Specific herbs, Damang Maria, Lagundi, and others, are burned for their scent and smoke, believed to draw spirits nearer and to consecrate the act. Sometimes the rituals are timed for Tuesdays and Fridays, days when folklore insists the boundary between worlds is thinner, and the air seems heavy with otherworldly potential. In particular, during Holy Week, when the forces of light and shadow are thought to clash most fiercely, the Mankukulam's power is said to be at its height. a fearful blending of sacred time and profane practice. This timing connects the practice of Kulam to older agricultural calendars and to Christian observance, creating a complex braid of belief that ties the old cosmologies to the rituals of living communities. But what of the victims? In some cases, the curse is subtle, a creeping malaise, an unrelenting string of bad luck, a gradual erosion of will that can easily be mistaken for clinical depression or prolonged unmanaged stress. In other instances, the affliction is starkly dramatic. Sudden, debilitating illness, recurring nightmares that fracture sleep, vivid hallucinations that unmoor perception, or even a descent into madness. The only refuge often available is to seek a healer, an albulario who can perform counter-rituals, cleanse the spirit, and attempt to unbind the heart and the unseen knots that tether it. The albulario serves as the cultural counterpoint to the Mangkukulam, a figure who understands the mechanics and vocabulary of the shadow, but chooses to deploy that knowledge for healing rather than harm, frequently employing many of the same herbs, prayers, ritual objects, and gestures, but with a different intention, an ethical framework, and a calling on a different set of spiritual allies. In rare and fraught cases, the victim or their kin confront the Mangkukulam directly, imploring mercy, bargaining with offerings, or appealing to shared norms in hopes of being released. Yet not every account concludes in horror. Some survivors find recovery through resilience, through communal support, or through renewed faith. Families rally, elders provide rituals and guidance, and faith communities add layers of prayer and practical aid. In urban marketplaces, love potions and amulets are sold openly beside charms for protection and trinkets meant to bring luck. Vendors promise happiness while also cautioning about consequences. To force love is to invite disaster, they will say, echoing a persistent moral that threads through folklore and everyday counsel. Real affection cannot be commanded, and every attempt to control desire leaves a mark on conscience and life. This moral echoes ancient stories in which gods punish mortals who try to usurp divine prerogatives over fate and affection, a recurring theme that has been adapted to modern anxieties. Listener submissions and oral testimony abound with cautionary tales. One woman, Danica, recounted how her boyfriend Renz began behaving erratically after she posted casual photographs with another friend online. He became withdrawn, suffering headaches and night terrors. His appetite and work faltered. A healer later revealed that a jealous rival had paid for a curse intended to bind him to Danica in misery. Only through an elaborate ritual cleansing did he recover some measure of health, but the relationship was forever altered, the intimacy tainted by knowledge of what had nearly consumed him. Another submission tells of a young woman named Ayla who, reeling from a painful breakup, sought out a love potion in a moment of desperation. The result was perverse. The object of her affection became obsessively attached and increasingly violent, his personality distorted and fragile under the pressure of the spell. She ultimately left him, haunted by guilt and fear, aware that she had paid a heavy moral price for the fleeting hope of reclaiming love. Contemporary analysis suggests that the apparent power of the Mangkukulam may arise from an intricate interplay of cultural psychology and social dynamics as much as, or sometimes more than, from any literal supernatural mechanism. In societies steeped in belief, the mere intimations of a curse or hex can precipitate real, measurable effects: heightened anxiety, insomnia, psychosomatic symptoms, and behavioral changes. This is not to invalidate the depth of suffering experienced by victims. Rather, it is an attempt to understand how suggestion, expectation, and meaning-making can mobilize physiological and psychological processes. Some clinicians and social scientists explain these phenomena in terms of the mind's profound capacity to shape subjective reality. When a person believes they are cursed, their body and mind may respond in ways that mirror the curse's purported effects, producing a feedback loop of expectation and symptom. Even so, for those who endure such trials, the scars are tangible, fear lingers, and the source of trauma remains anchored in a landscape where the supernatural feels unmistakably present. Religion complicates the picture further. Official Catholic teaching condemns witchcraft and sorcery, framing the deliberate tampering with another's free will as a grave moral transgression and a dangerous consorting with dark forces. Yet the lived religious practice of many people is syncretic and pragmatic. Devotions and novenas sit alongside folk remedies, and parishioners will often turn to both priests and albularios in their search for relief. In countless households across the islands, makeshift altars glow with candles, images of saints, crucifixes, and protective talismans, physical reminders that the boundary between the sacred and the profane is porous. In moments of crisis, families and individuals reach for every tool available. Formal sacraments and public faith, private rituals and ancestral practices, the council of clergy, and the hands-on work of folk healers. Together, these responses testify to a complex cultural ecology in which belief, fear, hope, and moral judgment intertwine.
Geography is never far from these tales. In the forests of Siquijor, the so-called Island of Witches, healers and sorcerers ply their trade, selling amulets and potions to tourists and locals alike. The island itself, ringed by dark volcanic sand and dense undergrowth, feels charged with a different kind of energy, its air thick with the scent of burning wood and wild herbs. Lanterns swing along narrow paths, and fishermen whisper of lights on the water. Grandparents warn children to come home before dusk because the forest does not sleep in the same way that people do. In the back streets of Manila, love spells are traded in secret, their recipes whispered from one desperate soul to another, often in cramped stalls smelling of incense and sizzling street food. Vendors wrap small parcels in paper, tuck prayers into folds, and pass notes between customers who look around nervously to ensure no one overhears. In remote barrios, the old ways persist, blending with the rhythms of modern life, text messages and talismans, online profiles and midnight rituals, the past and present existing in an uneasy, simultaneous reality. A grandmother may stitch a charm into a school bag while her granddaughter checks a dating app. A prayer is muttered over a smartphone before it is turned on. In every corner of the country, the legend of the Mangkukulam adapts and endures. In the digital age, the line between magic and manipulation blurs. The tools of enchantment, once candle and cord, are now apps and algorithms, messages that appear and vanish, profiles curated to spark jealousy or desire. Anonymous accounts whisper rumors, edited photos serve as modern talismans, and viral posts can ruin reputations as surely as a curse. Yet, the hunger for connection, the ache of longing, and the fear of betrayal remain unchanged. The Mangkukulam simply finds new canvases for her ancient art, painting on screens as readily as on parchment. Markets that once sold herbs now sell USB drives and charms printed from online orders. Rituals incorporate playlists and recorded chants shared across messaging platforms. If you have ever felt the chill of something unseen, if you have ever wondered whether a heartbreak was more than coincidence, whether a rival's sudden success came by unnatural means, you are not alone. The stories you have heard tonight are not just the echoes of superstition, but the heartbeat of a culture that knows love is both a gift and a danger. They are part memory, part warning, and part consolation for those who seek meaning in the small cruelties and miracles of everyday life. These narratives travel not only through whispered conversations, but also through comment threads, forwarded audio messages, and late-night calls, weaving a contemporary folklore that listens back. Send your own stories to our email at storiestphpodcast@gmail.com and let your voice become part of this living archive. Share the moments that unsettled you, the dreams that changed the way you loved, the strange coincidences that made you pause. For more details on tonight's tale, check the show notes and support options in the description. If you crave even deeper dives into Filipino folklore, explore our exclusive content on Patreon, where bonus episodes, interviews with scholars and storytellers, and annotated versions of these tales await. And remember to follow us on social media for daily folklore facts, stories, and community interactions, where listeners trade advice, warnings, and their own whispered legends. As we near the end of our journey, let us pause and reflect. What do we risk when we try to control the hearts of others? Is love still love when it is forced? When it is bound by fear instead of choice? In a world where trust is fragile and unseen forces seem to shape our fate, who truly holds the power? Consider, too, the ways we exert gentle coercion, through promises, omissions, carefully cultured images, and ask whether those, too, are a kind of small enchantment. Think about the ethical weight of intervening in another's emotions, and the long shadow such interference leaves on communities and on the self. Tonight, as you turn out the lights, ask yourself, if you could bind someone's heart, would you? And if you felt your own will slipping away, would you recognize the spell before it was too late? Would you seek help from elders, from friends, from those who remember older names for things? Or would you hide your fear and watch the pattern repeat in silence? These are not merely rhetorical questions. They are invitations to examine how we love and how we respect the autonomy of others. Love is never a guarantee. It is an invitation, not a command. And the most powerful magic of all is the freedom to choose. Hold that thought close and let it shape the way you move through your relationships, public and private. Listen to past and future episodes for more journeys into the shadows of the Filipino soul. Visit our website for transcripts, reading lists, and resources for anyone who feels harmed by rituals or manipulation. We include contacts for counselors and community support where available. Do not forget to like, subscribe, follow, and share this podcast so more voices can be heard. Support the podcast financially in ways you can find in the show notes. Your contributions keep this archive alive and allow us to pay contributors and preserve stories from across the archipelago. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, may you find love that is free and dreams that are truly your own. Good night.
you.